Alright guys, and welcome back to the Saints View, the channel for something content for our penultimate match preview of the season as Saints take their final trip of the season, ironically the shortest trip down the south coast to Bournemouth to take the Cherries on in what is a massive game for the hosts and for Saints. I mean, a good opportunity to relegate them, and we'll talk about that later on in the video and maybe get a little bit of revenge. But ultimately, we're cruising now until the end of the season for these final two games. But before we get into the video, do make sure you've hit the subscribe button. Apologies for no post-Brighton content on the channel and no stream. A lot's going on at the moment. It's very, very busy. And so when there are 2 or 3 games in 1 week, priorities change when it comes to content. So I do apologise for that. It was an okay game, a decent point, I guess. Also, make sure you're following us on our socials. Right, let's get into it. Starting off with Saints, of course, let's look at that 1-1 draw against Brighton last night. Not a bad result in the end, I think, given the fact that we made 5 changes, which really sort of affected our first half performance, particularly woeful first 45 minutes, in my opinion. At times, we looked like we were going to get in behind Brighton's defence, but the fact that we were almost playing a B team, like a second string side, it was clear they don't have experience of playing with each other, and there was no chemistry there. And it was clear to see. I mean, you saw with the goal that Brighton scored, Yannick Vestergaard in absolute no man's land, surprise, and it's those sorts of players who are just so far behind the starting lineup that you do worry about our squad depth. However, in the second half, we brought Kyle Walker-Peters on and Shea Adams. They changed the game completely. Højbjerg was moved back into midfield. And it's crazy to see how much Kyle Walker-Peters has an impact on this team now. We have to buy him in the summer. He's been so good since the restart for us. I mean, he completely changed the way we were playing. And we got a deserved equaliser through Ings. Could have gone and won it if it hadn't been for Matt Ryan producing the save of the season almost. But I guess you take the point at the end of the day. We're still breathing down the necks of Everton for 11th spot, and that's pretty much all we're fighting for now. Top half is almost mathematically just impossible. So it's going to be 12th or 11th, but I do feel like we need to be picking up points in the next 2 games. It'd be nice to win both of them just to make sure that we don't slip to 13th, 14th and end up with a lacklustre finish, because I think if we did end up finishing this season 14th, given how we've played, especially in the last handful of games, I think we'd be kicking ourselves a little bit. However, the game on Sunday is winnable, 100%, and we're currently on an unbeaten run of 5 games. Can we make it 6? It'd be nice to make it 7 and finish the season unbeaten. We've got Sheffield United next weekend as well to wrap it all up. But starting off with this one, it is a huge game for the other opponent. But for the fans, you know, if we were allowed to go into the stadium, it would surely be an interesting affair, a tasty, spicy affair, let's say, if the fans were allowed in the stadium. Unfortunately, they're not, as we know, but it could be a pretty memorable afternoon for the Southampton fans. I don't think the players are that bothered about it, but it's essentially Saints can relegate Bournemouth if results don't go Bournemouth's way, and of course we win. So tonight, Watford play West Ham. Basically, if Bournemouth are going to be relegated on the weekend, like I said, we're 5 unbeaten. We're in good form. We're playing very well. The last 3 games have been draws. I think if you reflect on it, potentially we could have come away with 4 more points than what we have now, and then that could have really given us a big boost of possibly making a final push for the top half. But it hasn't happened. It's okay. I would absolutely snap your hand off for 11th or 12th finish now. And to be honest, I'm a little bit bored. I said it on Twitter after last night's game against Brighton. I'm a bit bored now. Not of the team, of course, we're playing good football and it's great to see, but you kind of just want to hit the refresh button a little bit now, start the new season and start really, really well, because of course, that's where we have something to fight for. We start again and we can make that push. Now, we're playing very well, but we're playing very well for not very much. I think now the final 2 games, it's about laying the foundations to build upon for next season. It seems like Mohamed Salah is going to be very close to signing, which is a big move for us, which is great. And then hopefully a few more signings can come in the next couple of weeks before the new season will start. I don't know, maybe September time, I would imagine, maybe early October. But of course, we do have 2 more games to play. It'd be very nice to finish on 2 wins. And it'd be especially nice to get a win on Sunday, not because it's a derby. They're going to be Bournemouth fans in the comments. It's not a derby. It would be the exact same if it was Crystal Palace fans piping up about how they're a better side and how, you know, laughing about possibly looking like they're going to get relegated. Or, yeah, it literally, it could have been any team, Watford, West Ham. It's not the fact that Bournemouth are a South Coast side. I mean, the fact that they say they run the South Coast, yeah, that probably is another factor into it. But it's just not a derby. And the fact that this is the 10th Premier League meeting between the two sides, and we're still having to argue about whether it's a derby or not. But let's talk about our opponents, Bournemouth. We go to the Vitality on Sunday. But on to our opponents for Sunday, Bournemouth. What an absolutely huge game this is for them on Sunday, regardless of who it's against and how they want to see it as a derby. This is just a must-win if they want to be staying in the Premier League. I remember 2 seasons ago when we had those 3 games against Bournemouth, ironically Everton and Swansea, and we looked like we were going to go down. It was absolutely the final chance. And if we were going to lose that game, again, ironically against Bournemouth, it was going to be the final nail in the coffin. It feels like the exact same sort of scenario here. However, it does feel like Bournemouth are going to be going down. That's just my opinion. It's nothing to do with sort of rivalries or connections or whatever. It just mathematically, and looking at their squad and the final couple of fixtures, okay, yes, they've got us and Everton. Everton, that game, that's winnable based on how Everton are playing at the moment. But I think we're in form as well, so they have to take the opportunity with 2 hands and absolutely take it. They had a great result against Leicester, another good point as well against Spurs, but for the most part since the restart they've looked pretty poor. I mean, that defeat to Newcastle particularly was just so shambolic, and if I was, it just was absolutely unacceptable. But of course, I'm no expert on all things Bournemouth, so I had a chat with Ollie, who's a Bournemouth fan, give myself a bit more understanding about what's gone wrong for Bournemouth this season and just more understanding as to how big this game is for them on Sunday and how they're feeling ahead of it. Right then, guys, it is on to the opposition preview part of the match preview. Bournemouth versus Southampton. Of course, I had to get a Bournemouth fan on for this massive game for them on Sunday. I've got Ollie, a Bournemouth YouTuber and just general football YouTuber too. But Ollie, mate, how are you and how are you feeling ahead of Sunday?
Thanks. I've never been so nervous for a South Coast derby, as some call it. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of them that usually when we play Southampton, it's kind of, we want to beat them to get 6 points, 3 for us, none for them, and that's it. But now it is like, we don't care who we play. We just need the points and give us some chance of survival.
Yeah, well, obviously going into this one, very good form in the past 2-3 games for Bournemouth. A point against Spurs, a win against Leicester, a very big win against Leicester, and a very spirited performance against Man City at the Etihad. Following those 3 games, are you a lot more confident and a bit more optimistic going into the final 2 games where Bournemouth just have to win both to stay up?
Absolutely. I mean, we've played 3 out of the top, I think 7 or 8. I don't know where Spurs are at the moment, but 3 out of the top 7 or 8 teams in the Premier League. And that in itself, even if you're 8th or 9th, if you're Wolves or Sheffield United, those are difficult games. But when you're rock bottom, I think we lost something like 18 out of our last 23 games. It was looking like we were kind of fizzling out into nothing and kind of going to go down without really any kind of fight. But the Tottenham game really gave us a bit of hope. It wasn't a fantastic performance. It was very much backs against the wall, try and hold out, try and stop their key players from making a difference. And then at the end, we thought we might have nicked it, and VAR, I think in terms of the laws, it's the right call, but that was hard to take. But then to take the spirit from that, which would have felt like a loss, even though it's a fantastic point, to take that onto the next game against Leicester, that was incredible. And to be 1-0 down at half-time, and again, kind of looking like the game was going into nothing. We hadn't even had a shot on target, and we really had an attack. And then to score 4 goals out of nothing against a team that's currently 4th in a Champions League place is ridiculous, really.
Well, for those who don't know, and let's start with this. We had a conversation off camera, because when you talk Bournemouth, Southampton, of course you have those cliches about the possibility of it being a South Coast derby. Just for every Saints fan watching, where are you stood on the debate? Because this is our 10th game in the Premier League against each other, and the fact that we're still having to debate the fact whether it's a derby or not is ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, in the Premier League, it's very much commercial now. In my opinion, I think it's very much, you've got your brands, your sponsors, the players now are all on social media and advertising skin creams and all that kind of stuff. So it's very much now like the football itself isn't really in the Premier League that it is in the Championship. The Championship, you've got about a derby every single week against most teams in the league, and there's so much history. But in the Premier League, apart from your Manchester United, your Liverpools, your Everton, your Liverpools, you haven't really got that many really feisty derbies, because, like I say, it's now very commercial. You're playing for points, for places, for finance. So I think it's very much now for Bournemouth fans, like we're kind of trying to force a derby in the Premier League, because we haven't kind of got a close team in terms of proximity close to us where we actually have a derby, like Everton, Liverpool, or I don't want to say that, but Brighton, Crystal Palace. I know it's quite a way away, but the teams where you're close to each other and you've got that real fierce rivalry. So I think it's kind of being forced upon us now. It's like, this is a derby, it will be a derby, and if you're a Bournemouth or Southampton fan, you must follow the guidelines and believe it's a derby. But yeah, like you said before we were on camera, I don't think it's a huge derby. And I mean, if it was, that's out of the equation for Sunday anyway. It's now whoever we play, we need to win. But no, I don't think there's a huge derby there and a huge history. I mean, if there is any history, you probably saved us from, nothing.
I'm glad you said that, mate. Not many Cherries fans mention that, especially the ones on Twitter. Anyway, what have you made? Yeah, what have you made of Saints as an outsider this season, regardless of any sort of rivalries or bias? Because I guess it seems like we look like we're going to go down, and maybe be in your position come this point in the season around October, November time. But have you been impressed with us, especially our recovery? And are we a side that you fear going into Sunday?
I wouldn't say I fear Southampton going into Sunday, because I think at this point in the season, it's more in Bournemouth's hands. I don't think, I know people are saying, and like you said, on Twitter, fans are saying, I'd love to see us relegate Bournemouth, but it's not going to be Southampton relegating Bournemouth. It's Bournemouth relegating Bournemouth. And so I don't fear Southampton as such as Southampton, because Bournemouth are fighting against anybody. It's Bournemouth versus 11 players now, not Bournemouth versus Everton, Bournemouth Southampton, Bournemouth Leicester, whatever. But yeah, I think if you actually look at the teams and the way that both teams have gone throughout the whole campaign, Bournemouth started very, very well. I think they were 8th after the last couple of weeks, and a lot of people were saying, they could go for a Champions League or a Europa League push, which I said straight away, look, let's just focus on staying up again. But like your Sheffield Uniteds, your Leicesters, who have continued to do well without the massive squads of the big classic teams that are in the Premier League. Southampton have taken their start, which was very, I would say, parallel to Bournemouth. It was they started all right, but then it was just a slope that went downwards and didn't look like it was ever going to start rising again. And like you said, that 9-0 defeat against Leicester, I know you probably don't want me to bring that one up, but it looked very much in that game like Southampton were so far away from being a top tier a top league, Premier League, Premiership team. It looks like Southampton were kind of struggling to even maintain a place, or would have been struggling to maintain a place in the Championship or whatever. So it looked then like Southampton were going to be in a relegation battle, and what Hasenhüttl's done is ridiculous. With that squad, I know you've had a lot of injuries this season as well. So to be able to push, like I say, a team that hasn't got the squad depth as some teams, especially around yourself now, it's a brilliant job that he's done.
Well, going into Sunday, who are the key men for Cherries? Because it seems like Callum Wilson's always a threat, likes a goal against Saints. Brooks looks good as an outsider. Are they the key players, or would you add a few more to that list?
I think we've had a couple of players, especially since the restart, that have been pretty much like new signings. They would have felt like new signings for most Bournemouth fans, because they've been out for so long and had so many long-term injuries. So Brooks, like you say, feels now like we've just signed him, or he's just come back on loan or something like that. So he, at the moment, is by far one of the top prospects, I think, in the league. And I struggle to see him in a Bournemouth shirt next season if we stay up or not. So if we're going to make a difference in it, and if there's one player that will make a huge difference if he's on his top form, it would be Brooks. But one player I think that maybe is a key player that doesn't really get the attention in the media, and maybe not as much of a big name star as your Ake, your King, your Wilson, was Junior Stanislas. problem getting that one out. But no, I think Junior Stanislas has been a fantastic player for Bournemouth in his history, in the last 4 or 5 years. He maybe hasn't had the best start of this campaign as he would have liked and as the club would have liked. But since the restart, he's been a completely new person. We saw against Leicester. I think he got one of the goals. I think he claimed. I think one of them might have been a deflection. But he made such a huge difference in that game, and it's the kind of Bournemouth player that you kind of say that fits that Bournemouth position that we've had maybe like Mark Pugh, in the past, and players like Max Gradle in the first season. They're not huge stars, they're not huge names, but they're quick, they're good on their feet. They're quick on their feet. Sorry, they're that kind of Bournemouth player that you think when they're playing well, can cause huge difference to the score.
Well, mate, to wrap it all up, how are you feeling ahead of the game, and can you give us a score prediction?
Very nervous. We've just got to hope that, like I say, Bournemouth play against whatever team you put out, whatever lineup there is, whether you play a strong team, whether you rest a few players. I know you rested a few players against Brighton last night. So whether you play a full team, whether you play half a team, whether you play the under 18s, whatever, Bournemouth have got to fight against whoever it is. And the same for Everton in the final 2 games. In terms of prediction, I couldn't call it. If someone said, can you predict Bournemouth's results in the last 4 or 5 games, it wouldn't have been good viewing, that's for sure, the way we were playing. So it depends what Bournemouth turn up. I know that every single player, every single fan will be fighting it and giving their all. I know we can't be in the stadium, but I know the players are very spirited at the moment, especially off the back of a few good results. So I think overall we'll give it a good run these final 2 games. We're in a position now, thanks to the last few games, where we can give a good fight and a good account of ourselves. Whether we do go down, at least we go down fighting. So I hope for a Bournemouth win. I would say on paper, given what the teams are at the moment, I can see it being a 2-2 draw, kind of that kind of range, where it kind of maybe one team will nick it, or it'll be a low-scoring game. But I'm hoping, Bournemouth's last game at home all season. Like I say, fans can't be there, but I think this could be a real chance, given what happens tonight as well between West Ham and Watford. If today's result goes well, I think Bournemouth, if they can nick it against Southampton, they're in a huge position to create another great escape. So I want to say 2-2, but I also want to say 2-1 Bournemouth.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes on Sunday. Mate, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, I'll leave your link in the description below. Go check out Ollie's channel. Right, on to the next bit of the preview. Big thank you to Ollie for coming on the channel. I will leave the link to his channel in the description below. But on to my prediction. To be honest, thinking about this one, I become a bit more nervous just to think the fact that we're not playing for much, and they are. They really, really are. Of course, it'd be great to relegate them. I think a lot of Saints fans would like that opportunity, but I don't know. I think they're really going to have to go for it. Maybe that could go into our advantage. If we sit back a little bit, soak up some pressure and score a couple good goals on the break, potentially that could work. I mean, sometimes if they don't show up, they will be so poor at the back, and they will be exposed. And I would back us to expose those mistakes in the defence. And I think we are going to win the game. I do think, our away form's great. We're in good form. We're playing well. And it will be a full-strength side, I hope, anyway, on Sunday. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Saints win. I think on the day, our quality is going to show. Bournemouth will go for it 100%, and we're not going to batter them in any sense of the imagination. I think if you'd asked me this, if we were playing them 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we would have piped them 4-5. But things have changed. They've had a few good results. They need to win the game. But I think that could play into our hands a little bit, and we'll come away with a narrow victory. Thank you so much for watching the video, though, guys. If you have enjoyed it, leave it a like. Let me know how you're feeling ahead of the game in the comment section below. Apologies, this is on the phone. Things are busy at the moment. I just had to get this out filmed as soon as possible, as you can understand. Make sure you have subscribed with your notifications turned on. Follow us on all of our socials, and we'll see you tomorrow for the predicted lineup. Take it easy, guys.